Hello there, folks. I said I was going to dive a little bit deeper into Burrows and Badgers, and so that is exactly what I'm doing here. Obviously, gave folks a little bit of an overview of Burrows and Badgers during the last video that I did on the game, which was kind of looking at the model range and giving you sort of like an overview of the game itself. But I thought I'd actually dive into the rulebook and just kind of like break it down for you so you can get a look at it. So this is the current edition rulebook. There is going to be a new one in the new year in 2025 if you're watching this at a later date. But currently this is the book that you can pick up. And it is pretty cheap and cheerful and an excellent little tome for you to dive into and have some fun with. So, obviously, by Michael Lovejoy, and it is a wonderful little tome. And I just thought I'd guide you through it. So you have a little bit of a breakdown of the background of Northumbria, but that has been fleshed out in things like supplements and stuff, like the War and Percy affair, and all sorts of other books that they've done in the sort of like intervening years and months and stuff. There's also plenty of detail in here as to kind of like how to get started, all that kind of standard wargaming stuff that you expect. So that's all there for you to get stuck into and give you an idea of how to play. One thing you will need to do is get yourself some poly dice. That is the sort of driving mechanic behind Burrows and Badgers. So if you're interested in diving into the game, you want to get yourself a nice set of poly dice. If you're a D&D player, you probably already have some with you. So just make sure you get your hands on those. I thought I'd just dive straight in and play. One of the things that I think is quite interesting is the play space. So they go from 2x2 to 4x4. So depending on the kind of games you want to play and the speed of the games you want to play, you will kind of like decide on the tabletop that suits you. I would say that it would be a good idea to pack your tables full of terrain, as much as you can, because the game is all about kind of like the storytelling, the narrative. It's still a skirmish game at the heart of it all. So you don't want to have a game where there's too many open sight lines and stuff for people to just shoot you. It's all about sneaking up and backstabbing and all that kind of stuff, and getting opportune shots from afar with your bows and arrows and things like that. Basic tenets of the rules. As I said in the previous video, there are a couple of different statistics. So you've got movement, strike, block, range, nimbleness, concealment, awareness, fortitude, and presence. Fortitude and presence kind of take on the role of your kind of morale values in the game. Awareness and concealment used for hiding on the tabletop. You've got nimbleness for avoiding archery and stuff like that. And then range is for shooting. You've got block for avoiding getting hit, and strike is obviously for hitting, and then movement there is just for movement. Everything is dictated by a dice. So in this case, as you can see here, a strike of D10 would be a D10 dice. In the case of movement, you never roll to move, but say movement is represented by a D6, it just means 6 inches. That's how they work that out. And you can see a little bit of a breakdown there as to how they work and sort of how it all comes together. At the key of the game, the core of the game is the roll-off mechanic for Burrows and Badgers. So when you're playing a game, you will each roll the appropriate dice. So say you had a D10 to strike and the opponent had a D8 to block. You would roll those dice and you compare the values. Now, obviously, the D10 has the higher chance of success of hitting that higher number, so it's obviously better. But the lower dice has the bonus of being able to hit that kind of like critical level, which I'm fairly sure they talk about here. There you go, perfect rolls. So if you ever rolled the top of your dice, so on a D10 it would be a 10, you would consider that roll to be perfect. And if it's perfect, you add 7 to the roll. So it means that even if you are a mouse or something rolling a D4, then you can just roll and, likely best a badger or a fox or something if you're particularly lucky, which I think is quite nice. Then when you compare the values of that, you'll then work out how much damage you do. So there will be other contributing factors like shields and armor, but the difference between the two dice results is the damage that you do to your opponent. So say the person who rolled the d10 rolled an 8, and the person who rolled a d8 rolled a 4, then the difference is 4. That would be carried through over into the damage that's done to the opponent. So pretty simple, very easy to do. There are also kind of like favor fortune tokens that you can get in the game. That has kind of like been tweaked and changed in the new edition, but as it stands, currently you can use sort of fate fortune points, as it were, to give yourself extra dice in a attack. Now, currently, those dice, those points anyway, when you're playing a campaign, they degrade over time, and yet you can't get them back unless under certain circumstances. Whereas if you are in the new edition, I think they're making it a resource that you get every turn, which just made a lot more sense. There are some fun little kind of like tweaked mechanics and stuff in here that'll be there. It'll be fun for people who want to dive in and get a little bit sneaky with things. So you have things like hiding and stuff, so you can sneak around and hide behind terrain and in bushes and all that kind of stuff, behind a wall. You can take awareness checks to spot them and stuff. You can also use like ambushes, so you can set up in ambushes, and then if you succeed in diving forward, then you get to sort of rush at your attacker and sort of get the drop on them. It's a bit like Overwatch, if you considered it in games like Necromunda and stuff like that. There's also a few little sort of quirky bits. So for example, when you get wounded, every character has 16 wound boxes, and as you go through things like the 4th, 8th, 12th, 15th, and 16th, you'll take minuses to the damage, the rolls that you make in the game. So it sort of shows the degradation over time of characters as they get stuck into the fighting and stuff. You also have the heroic sacrifice roll, where the minuses can become pluses. So if you've got like -40 your roll, you can instead change that into a +4 bonus. But once you've done that, you are considered to be out of action. You have to roll on the injury chart later. But it's a fun way of kind of like last chance saloon, going for it with your like Shrew Berserker or something like that. And obviously classic routing rules for skirmish games if you play anything like more time in the past. So that's kind of like a basic overview of the rules. There's obviously more in-depth stuff there as you go through it, but that kind of gives you the essence of how it plays. Play kind of goes back and forth between the two players between turns using the initiative phase, and then you'll go alternating activation between the different characters you've got. So it's the attacking player's presence versus the defending player's fortitude, plus or minus bonuses and things like that. And as you can see, you can switch between the two based on how you play and sort of how things go. At the core of the game, however, is the idea of building warbands and playing campaign games. So you'll start off with 350 pennies to spend, and as is the case with games like Mordheim or Necromunda and things, you'll buy the base characters, and then you'll buy them whatever equipment that you think they should have. Everybody has a certain amount of slots. Warband can never be larger than 10, as you can see there, with no more than 6 of these being large models and no more than 3 being massive models. And there are a few sort of tweaks and stuff here as well. You will always get a leader, and you will always have a second. They get access to skills and a bump to their stats. You can choose magic users. You don't have to. Magic is done in the same way as a lot of other roll-offs. We'll go into magic in a little bit more detail when it comes up. But then from there, you'll pick a den that you will sort of use as your base. And there will always be like a bonus to that, which is very nice. And that can be upgraded over time, as you can see there at the top as well. You've got quite a few different animal races for you to pick from, different breeds of rabbit and all that kind of thing for you to dive into and get your hands on. And they all have a cost associated with them, as you can see there on the one hand side. They also have a they also dictate if something is medium, etc., and rare as well. So all of these could be taken regardless, but then these have limitations to them. Same as you can see there for the small beasts. And you can see like bird medium, whereas bird small. And then some creatures will come with their own special abilities as well. So they'll just start with spines or fearless or strong and all that kind of thing. It's not uncommon for you to see quite a lot of rabbits and foxes and hares are also very popular. Badgers, of course, very good, as you'll see over here. So you've got large beast table. Hares come with a leap and strong one already, so that gives you a bonus to your attacks and things. Wildcats are also very good, but obviously the larger the creature, the more powerful they are, the more points they cost. A standard warband can be made up of whatever you like, but there are also options for you to choose from single species warbands. So a single species warband allows you to make quite a themed set. And obviously it comes with the minus that you're not getting the best of 3 or 4 worlds, I suppose you'd say, when it comes to building your warband. But they do have a sort of offset, as you can see here. So a single species warband will receive extra starting skills in addition to the usual skill and stat upgrade for their leader and second. 2 of the characters can also take a skill or stat upgrade. So if you wanted to do sort of like a Mouseketeers type thing, you could just take all mice or all badgers or whatever, or all otters. Whichever way you want to go, you can easily go down that route. I think a lot of people love going down the mouse route and just trying to do like an epic mouse warband. I think it'll be a really fun way of doing things, especially with the amount of models that Oathsworn has now created, because you've got loads and loads of different things to pick from. And lots of themes that you can go down as well. So you go down like the thievy, roguey route, or you could do royalists and that kind of thing with heavy armor. It's all very, very cool. You then have different allegiances. So each of these allegiances will have den types that they can choose and magic options that they can pick from, but also a particular bonus as well. So they can increase their strike dice, which is a very powerful ability. Rogues have life in the shadow. They can have concealment dice updated and 2 extra fate points. That's the name of it, fate points. And then obviously you've got different dens. Free beasts, fingers in pies, roll 3 times on the rare items table, and they can add these to their starting equipment, which is very, very good. And they can also modify them by +1 or -1, and they also have different dens. And then the wild beasts, those from the highlands and beyond, who have attuned to the land. They ignore difficult terrain and move at full speed while moving horizontally, which is insanely good. Very, very good indeed. I would say that there was a pretty nice balance of different warbands and allegiances in the initial book. That this has been expanded upon as part of the Oathsworn journal. So if you're interested in getting your hands on more rules for the different warbands, like witch hunters, mistghasts who are ghosts, and loads of different other ones in between, there are lots of interesting ways for you to build warbands now, and a lot of it can be found online, free as digital rules. So yeah, once you've chosen that, some of you might have magic involved. So when it comes to magic, pretty easy to dive into and get your hands on these. As you can see, each of the magic spells has a target that you need to hit using the cast roll-off based on the fortitude. It'll tell you if it needs line of sight or not, and what other things you need, and also the range for it. I initially went into the game not really giving 2 hoots about magic. But I would say that magic is kind of important. You can get by without having a caster in your warband. And there are some warbands where that is just inherently what you'll do. So if you go on the Witch Hunter warband, you're not going to have casters. But I would say that, well, at least you won't have casters anyway at the moment. But I think there's something to be said about including maybe 1 caster in your warband, just so that you can get access to things like cure and heal and stuff, because they really help to bulk up the survivability of a warband, because things can get really nasty very, very quickly in Burrows Badgers. It is not a kind game sometimes on its rolls. You can get very, very beaten up and battered very quickly, and so having things like heal and stuff can be very, very good. And obviously you can see there are different ways to cast magic. So light uses presence, natural magic uses fortitude, so you might take that into account when you pick which creatures are going to be doing it. So you've got dark magic there as well. The other thing that's quite nice about this is that you can use ingredients to boost your spells. So every spell can be cast anyway, but if you buy individual ingredients, they can be used to buff the spell. So in the case of heal there, using Blessed Water means that the spell is automatically cast. Using Henbane means poison is also removed. Heal all, the spell affects all friendly models. They all hit D12. Same thing as you can see here. Hearts of Oak, Blessed Water, the spell is automatically cast. And you get +3 to all route roll-offs, which is pretty good. So yeah, 6 spells per caster, always handy for you to pick from. And there's quite a few different types of magic for you to choose from as well. So it's not like you're going to be lacking, which is always handy. Unbound magic there as well. There's also a lot of equipment in the game. As it is a campaign-based, story-driven narrative experience, you will find that there is a lot of individuality that can be given to particular miniatures. Thankfully, I would say that the gear isn't overly complicated. I'd say that it's all fairly standard and easy to get your head around. So it's not like you're going to be looking at it going, what does a one-handed weapon do? What does a polearm do? But there's a breakdown of how it all works in the rulebook, which is incredibly handy. So you've got missile weapons there as well. Armor, which I think is pretty handy, but obviously you've got to weigh that against the fact that it's quite expensive. Items here, so you've got lots of different ways for you to build different item builds. Mages focused, really handy. Obviously, Lucky Charm, I think, is a really nice little bonus for you to add. And of course, you've got different poisons that you can add to your weapons, which is a really fun little thing. So if you want to go down the route of being quite an evil little warband full of stoats, you could get yourself some fun poisons to throw into the mix. And lots of other bits and pieces, as you can see here. Different types of ammo, which is really good for trying to get through armor and things. Black powder weapons as well. And then here is where the meat of the game comes in for character development, and that's the skills. So some skills will give you kind of like just inherent bonuses to your strikes and things like that. Some of the ones will be slightly more complicated. Some of them might even have negatives to them as well. But this is a really nice in-depth set of skills based on the various stats effectively. And each of those will be a nice little way for you to bulk up your warband and give you some fun directions to go when it comes to theming them and developing the warband over time. And obviously the more you play, the more skills you'll get. And yeah, very nice. There's also the innate skills. So these are the ones that a lot of creatures already have. So short-sighted for moles, for example, will be just a downside. And here's a little breakdown of the campaign section as well. So when you play a campaign, you obviously choose the scenarios that you're going to play. There's a permanent injury chart there because, of course, there is. It's a campaign game. You have a wandering chart, which is there for what you can do in between your games. You can send someone off to go and see if they can find something. Ways to upgrade your dens so you can make them more useful to you in the future. Different ways to get new skills as you get experience. Upkeep for your warband. Hiring new recruits. Trading. And there's all the trading tables there as well, which give you an idea of prices. And the rare items table, which will be very handy for people looking to get their hands on more stuff. And here's the thing about fate points. So you start with 10, and then that degrades over time. But they have changed that in the new edition, where I think you get a certain amount of them each scenario. So it's not something that you can just burn through. It's quite cool. I think they're doing a good job of changing that up. You also have your warband rating there, and they balance the game by introducing bonuses for in terms of fate points per game, depending on the difference between the warbands. So if one warband starts to get ahead of the other, then the other players just obviously get a bonus in terms of roll-offs that they can get stuck into. Then you have a set of different scenarios. So you've got lots of different scenarios. Lots of them are fairly similar to a lot of other ones you might have played in war games before. Some fun stuff there. 6 there. And then you also have one thing that I really like, which is secondary objectives. Secondary objectives are absolutely fantastic because they give you something sneaky to do apart from the main objective. So if you can't achieve the main objective, maybe go for your secondary. If you can't do your secondary, just focus on the primary. And I think these are really fun because it kind of takes those things in a different route for the same scenario. So if you're doing the witch hunt scenario and you've done it 3 times already, the likelihood is you'll have a different secondary objective, which is obviously really useful for making the game a little bit more interesting each time you come back to it and giving longevity to the experience. Different ways to make magical items included in the back, as you can see there. And then you have your little roster sheet. So there's a couple of different roster sheets out there at the moment, some slightly more in-depth than others. I should note all the artwork through here has been done by Gary Chalk, and there's also photography from Michael as well. I will say, I think Michael's probably looking to change up the artwork potentially for the next edition. We'll have to wait and see. I don't mind the Gary Chalk artwork. I think it's quite cool. But we'll have to see how the new book looks when it comes out. It's not drastically different as a set of rules from the first edition, from what I can tell. There are a few tweaks and refinements, and there's a lot more options in there for players, which is obviously important. But inherently, it's still pretty much the same game that you've come to, that hopefully you've come to know and love. What I would suggest is you go and pick this up. You can get it from all sorts of different places. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Oathsworn themselves, which is what I would recommend, because it's obviously good to help them out and give them some cash, so they can come back and sculpt more miniatures. Definitely go straight to them and help them out. And obviously you can get it from Osprey Games as well. But yeah, go and pick this up because, we've still got months and months before Salute and everything rolls around in April next year. So there's plenty of time for you to dive in, get your warbands together and start playing games of Burrows and Badgers. And of course, the nice thing is all of the miniatures that you will use for this version of the game will be completely useful in the second one. I also flashed up one of the expansions they did, which is the Warren Percy Affair, which is this 2-player campaign for Burrows and Badgers, and as you can see, comes with all sorts of fun new scenarios, new characters, and all sorts of different things in here. And this gives you an idea of what the folks at Oathsworn have been doing over the last little while to kind of bulk out Burrows and Badgers. I won't go too in depth in this one, so you can find out for yourself, but definitely worth coming to check out things like this if you want to take the games even further than you normally would have done so far. I just wanted to show a few more things off. So here we go. I wanted to show off one of the roster sheets so you get an example of how it looks. So this is one I did for my Robin's Hood warband. So you've got some different notes there as to what kind of fate you have, what your den was, your warband rating, your upgrades, the labour and stuff. You've got my leader there, which was Robin Waterford. And then you have other characters. So you've got Father Wenlock there, the mouse, and all of the different spells and things they have, and all the extra bonuses. And I think there's more on the other side. There we go. There's the other side. I know I didn't just have 2 characters in my warband. Big John, the Stoat, Red Bill, the mouse, and Much, who was unfortunately a little ill. But this kind of gives you an idea of sort of how your warband looks when you're playing your games. And nice little important weapon slots and stuff on there as well, which is always handy. There are a couple of other kind of character sheet designs you can pick. So I think this is one of the ones that I found. So you've got this one here, which is a little bit more in depth. So there you go. So this is one of the other warband things that I found online. So you've got that option there too. Make sure you go and check out some fun tournaments if you can find them. This was one of the ones that I went to in 2019 of all times. Jesus. And here is some of the stats that I got when I dove into playing the game and having some fun. But there we go. Right. I think that's pretty much everything when it comes to Burrows Badgers and the main rulebook. Hopefully that was a interesting and insightful look inside the book and sort of why you should dive in and start playing the game. As I say, Burrows Badgers is probably one of my favourite fantasy games out there. It's got lots of depth to it, but not so much that it kind of overwhelms you, and it is exceptionally good fun for new players who want to try something that's a little bit more campaign based. I have loved this book a lot. It used to have lots and lots of sticky notes in it as well, so I could remember where certain things are. But I took them out for this video. Now I'm regretting that, but there we go. Yeah, definitely go and check out Burrows Badgers, see what you think, and tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. As I say, fantastic game. If you have any questions, please drop them in comments below and I'll try and answer them. Rules questions or just any questions in general. And yeah, I'll be back in the near future with another video. Bye for now. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Okay, yeah, now bye.